And so we really pressure the ball, but we're also in passing lanes. We make every single entry difficult, near impossible. So, if they're starting to call a play, that's when our eyes kind of light up, whether it's head tap, thumbs up, twirl, whatever it is. We really try to deny high post, deny the wings, deny cutters, deny flashers.
Hey, Coach, welcome to episode 10 of Game Time. Today I'm talking with Molly Miller, head coach of the Grand Canyon University women's basketball program, who's on a 22-game winning streak. We had a great discussion on defense, how to force more turnovers. We talked about shooting. She shared a great shooting drill for your practices. We talked about how to get your players on the same page, and she shared a whole bunch of other great insights. Let's go. One of the first things that I like to ask coaches is, what is your team identity? I find this helps users or listeners and watchers understand your coaching style and what your principles are. So what is your team identity at Grand Canyon?
Well, we've always been convicted to the way we play defense. So I know that's kind of our brand, and our staple is our high pressure defense. But really our teams just work really hard. And I think that's kind of what we're known for is the toughness and hard work and never taking a play off. I have a saying, every 50-50 ball is 100% ours. And I think we're really true to that brand of just tenacious defense. Pace is really good for us. And we practice that way. So I think, the standard is the standard in this program, and it's kind of hard to fall short of that expectation when every practice your coaches and your teammates are pushing you, and the expectation is every rep matters and get something out of every rep and do it to your best of ability. So this team that we have this year, especially, I think they just epitomize that hard work and that tenaciousness, and they're really bought in. And that's something too, as a coach, that you love. It's asked to do something. Okay, coach, how can I do better? Yes, coach, I got you, coach. Or and it's really a player-led team too. Our seniors and our leaders really set that tone and set that example from the get-go. So I guess the long answer to that is just our work ethic on the court. It shows up every single day.
That's not surprising that you mentioned defense right off the bat. Your team defensively creates a lot of turnovers. I think it's almost over, or maybe just over a quarter of the possessions defensively end in a turnover. What defensive principles do you think have helped create that, kind of uncomfortableness among the offense?
I mean, our goal is to make the offense uncomfortable and get them out of that zone of just kind of repetitiveness. So whatever they've done, whatever their brand is, whatever their scheme offensively is, we kind of want them to throw that out the window when they face us, because they can't get into anything. They can't run what they want to. They can't get to their spots. It's always a battle trying to use screens, make basket cuts. And so we really pressure the ball, but we're also in passing lanes. We make every single entry difficult, near impossible. So, if they're starting to call a play, that's when our eyes kind of light up, whether it's head tap, thumbs up, twirl, whatever it is. We really try to deny high post, deny the wings, deny cutters, deny flashers. And so even that initial entry into offense, we're making it really, really tough. So one, we get a lot of steals that way, or two, they're starting their offense way back towards half court where they don't want to start it. So I think just that initial pressure is really important to us. And then we do a good job of flying all out over the place. We'll take some risks, but I feel like we've got each other's back when it comes to building a wall or stunting or peel switches. We really do fly around, and that's what makes the defenses special when you have five people kind of working in tandem, and they trust that they can take a chance because their teammate's going to have their back and they'll just recover. That second and third and fourth effort after some scramble is really important. We practice that. We practice what it looks like to get back in the play, to fly back on the weak side, to match up and talk and point. So all those things in the pressure defensive system are really important, that communication and that effort. But I would say, especially like the high school, what a lot of coaches take away from what we do is whenever there's a play being called, deny, deny, and make it impossible to make that first entry.
So you mentioned your seniors. You have the top 10 players on your team in terms of minutes played are seniors. That's an experienced team. And when I watch your games, you can tell they're very experienced. They know what they're doing. They're on the same page, but they haven't all come in at the same time. So how have you managed to get everybody kind of on the same page, even though some have only played for you for a year or two?
Yeah, that experience is huge. Even some of those seniors technically have another year of eligibility left, but
Mhm.
just having that experience out there to help. I always say, like, I'm the reinforcer with this team, not necessarily the enforcer. Um, they know the standards and they've been through it and they understand what it takes to compete at this level. So I've got a lot of great leaders that I rely on or talk through to get messaging to the team, and they kind of enforce that standard in the locker room, on the court, in between the lines, outside the lines. And I just have to reinforce that. So I don't, when it's reversed and I have to be the enforcer and maybe sometimes the reinforcer, that's tough to get your messaging across. But when your peers are upholding that message and when they really do a good job of leading by example, then I get to come in on the backside and do the easy work. Like, yes, this is what we want to do. No, this is what we want to do. Try this instead. Yes, that's the standard. Nope, that's not quite the standard. So more of that corrective behavior than the demanding behavior, which happens from a lot of those players out on the court, which is a really good culture piece to have as a part of your team.
I'd like to talk offensive structure and principles for a bit with you. You are top 12 in the country in points per possession. What offensive principles do you think have led to that effectiveness?
Let your defense create your offense is probably the first one. And what's really special is we've really gelled as a team together in terms of every spot on the floor gives us something different. So we're able to complement one another. Our post player has been in the top 10 in the country in field goal percentage almost all year. But then we've got our preseason player of the year in the conference, Trinity San Antonio, who is a really good slasher. She's got a great mid-range game. Then we've got one of the top 3-point shooters in the country in Alyssa. She's number one in the country in 3-point makes per game. And so when you have all those pieces, and then my 5th-year senior, Tiara Brown, who just knows the system like the back of her hand, a matchup nightmare. And then our point guard too, who I think she's second right now in the conference, right after Tiara and steals per game. So you kind of have all the pieces meshing and melding together really well for this team, and we put them in strategic places for them to be successful. So we're trying to have Alyssa hunt her shot from 3 and have some quick hitters for her. We're trying to create gaps for Tiara and Trinity. We're trying to get some post ISOs for Laura, our post player, because she is so efficient down there, and a lot of times she'll find herself one-on-one down there because we do have perimeter threats. And we try to get our point guard to really run the offense, run pace when necessary. We're a really good team in transition, but we also can be disciplined and execute in the half. So to have those different weapons, not only from a personnel standpoint, but from an approach to the offensive end, has been really good for our team.
I was going to mention every one of those players because they're all so different from each other offensively, and when I watch your games, I don't know if you're calling plays from the sidelines or you run many set plays, but it seems like whenever there's an advantage, whether, it's Kayla has or Alyssa, sorry, has a slower player on her, she's hunting her threes. I think she shoots like 80% of her shots are threes, and she's like 46%, but the ball finds the right hands almost all the time whenever there's an advantage. Do you guys watch a lot of film? Do you talk about this in huddles a lot on, where your advantages lie throughout the game?
Yes, completely. I mean, that's something that is an advantage for our team because we can pick apart other teams just looking at matchups. Obviously, with Tiara, we know if she's got a smaller guard on her, we're going to isolate her in the post. And they know this. They know the scout, but they also know throughout the game that the advantage lies in this area and that area for that person, which makes this team really unselfish. And that's something as a coach you hope to get as you enter season is an unselfish team that's bought into we over me. We kind of have a saying this year, they'll finish my sentence. It's all about the team, and they'll say the team, and together we'll say the team. So it has been the team, the team, the team mentality. And we know that when Alyssa's open, it's hard to get the number one 3-point shooter in the country shots in the half court. So we're always looking for her in the transition. If she does come loose, we know there's a small window for our players to be able to set her up and find her. And they just know that. They know the scout is probably a lot about Trinity and her abilities. So if they collapse on her, Trinity's really good about kicking it out, and she knows that. So we just have some smart basketball players, but they really are bought into what does this look like collectively? Yeah, they have their individual skill, which is really top notch, but collectively, how does my skill fit in the puzzle to making us the best team that we can be moving forward? And that's a lot of talking about it as a coach and as a program. And it's just constantly kind of feeding them the team concept. And you guys, we talk about KYP on the scout of the opponents, but we need to KYP within our own locker room. Like, how do we set each other up to be successful? Know personnel, know what we're doing well, know how we're doing it, know why we're doing it, and understand who fits in the scheme of the grand picture and the big picture.
Yeah, that's impressive to be a part of when there's everyone is valuing the team over their own production or their own numbers. Because I would imagine going into a season with that many seniors, lots of people are going to want to, play really well for their last year, their second last year, and maybe get some kind of looks from the pro ranks in Europe or WNBA, whatever the case may be. So I would imagine they police each other pretty well because they're older, they're more experienced, but that also comes from coaching, I'm sure, as well. So in terms of game film, how much game film do you watch?
And we watch it as a team. We watch it individually. We do spend a lot of time in film study. But I've grown wise to players that, you can't be longer than we try 10, 15 minutes max in the film room. So a lot of credit to our coaches too. We all kind of dissect the game when they're done, and we'll have a meeting and show what we found. And we'll usually put clips together of, the heavy points that we want to hit, the important points that we want to hit. Not dilute it too much or not overwhelm them too much with information, but they're really good at, I'll make an emphasis, like, here's what we're going to watch. These 2 points, I want to see that carry over to practice today. So you guys, I know that you paid attention, you understand what we want to improve on. So it's short and sweet, but it's impactful. And that's really, I think, where I've evolved as a coach. I think in my younger years, we'd spend, too much time in the film room, but we'll do some individual film sessions too, which is helpful because they're more locked in, when it's one-on-one and you're talking about how you can improve and what you can do better. But we do a lot of film study ourselves, and then we break it down into a very precise message to the players.
Yeah, that seems like a common theme with the coaches that I talked to. Coach Bozzella at Seton Hall said he used to have 3-hour game film right after a game, and people are falling asleep. Now he does
Yeah, you'd lose
15,
them.
20 minutes tops. Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's talk more offense, because your offense is incredibly efficient. I mean, and successful at shooting is unreal. You're fourth in the country in field goal percentage, fifth in 3-point percentage, sixth in effective field goal percentage. Do you have a shooting drill that you could share that the players like and that has helped with your success?
Let's see. We do a lot of shooting at the beginning of practice too. That's something that we spend some time on. And I think, to our kids' credit, they're passing up good shots for great shot. Again, that's one of those culture pieces that we've preached. And so I think that's why our field goal percentage has been good. And we know each other's kind of kill spots or their sweet spots, where we need to get our teammates involved and get them the best shots. We do have one that's kind of game like, it gets up and down. We call it 60 and 60. And there's 3 lines on each baseline, and you sprint the length of the court. You receive the pass from your teammate. You shoot it you run and you get the ball and go to the end of the line. Well, when you pass it, you're sprinting down to the other side, getting the basketball, shooting, sprinting down. So it's continuous: pass and sprint, shoot, pass, sprint, shoot, rebound your own, go to the end of the line. And we'll put 60 seconds on the clock. And the goal now is 70 almost, because we just clobber 60. But the goal is to get 60 points in 60 seconds. Twos are worth two, threes are worth three. So you just have a manager counting both ends, telling the scorekeeper two, three, three, and they'll tally it up. And the goal, like I said, is to get 60 in 60 seconds. And I think our record, we broke 100 this year, which was pretty impressive.
Wow.
But we like to do that. You do it 3 times. So there'll be 3 lines. So the lines will rotate through each spot. So 60 and 60 is a good one. And if you don't get 60 in 60 seconds, we do that spot again until we do. So that's been a good one. And you can shoot your shot too. You don't have to shoot a 3. You don't have to necessarily shoot a 2. You can call your shot out as you approach the passer, and it's a good drill.
So I also noticed that footwork is incredibly good. When on the catch, when it's kicked out and on the catch, feet are ready. There's no dragging. There's no traveling. There's jab steps. There's ball fakes, shot fakes. A lot of fundamentally strong players. How much time do you spend on fundamentals?
Yeah, a lot in the summer, and we'll do that throughout practice in the year. But we say what makes a great shot is 4 things: you're on balance, you're in rhythm, you're in range, and you're open. And that's something that we've always practiced and preached, is really balance and rhythm and getting your weight right and your feet set. And if you're not set, don't take that shot. You can get it next time. So that's something we've preached a lot and we work on. Even in our shooting drills, it's kind of an emphasis. Make sure you get your weight right, your balance right, your rhythm right. If you bobble it, you don't have to shoot that one. So that's something that we preach. And there's a lot of work done in the off season on an individual perspective too, from just making sure the footwork's right. And there's a lot of different philosophies. If you're recruiting some older players and, they're hop to catch, but we like inside pivot foot, we're not going to change that if they're a good shooter at that point in time. We're just going to make sure that the rhythm and the balance is really good when they are taking their practice shots.
That's interesting. When I watch your games, I can see that kind of happening in real time. If someone catches it, if Alyssa catches it on the move, or she's kind of off balance or maybe not ready for it, she will fake, get the defender moving, pass, relocate, and almost every time she's got a way better shot second time. So
she's pretty good in that. We call it get action. So she's coming off a stagger, coming off a flare, and they're flying out at her. And maybe she's not completely set. She'll give it up and get it back and get her feet a solid base so she can hit those shots. And that's why she's, one of the most effective 3-point field goal kids in the country.
Is there stats that you track through games that you think that aren't box score kind of stats that you think help with your success?
We have had in the past some non-negotiable box score that we track, and that could be deflections, blockouts, missed blockouts, charges, loose balls. That's something in film that we'll look for a lot. And I've got to give, this team a lot of effort. There hasn't been a huge, come on, why aren't we doing these moments? And so those kind of non-negotiables or intangibles that maybe don't show up on the box score, how do you build those habits in practice every day? A lot of my peers have said, how do you get your kids to play so hard? And how do you get them to go that hard for that long? I'm like, what do you mean? That's just who we are. We're not, we do that every day, and that's the normal and that's the standard, and we don't know any other way. So I think that's what's good about this team, is we're always kind of tracking that, not as a give them a piece of paper and look what you are or not doing. It's just how we approach the drills. It's how we approach scrimmages in practice. It's how we approach our kind of daily practice lives. And so you may build habits like that show up in the games.
So according to Synergy Sports, you're number 6 in the country in points per game on after timeout plays. That to me says good coaching and smart players. What makes a good huddle during a game for you?
We'll first come in and kind of talk about adjustments. And so we'll meet as a staff, and my staff, so much credit to my staff. They're amazing in what they do. All my assistants could be leading a team of their own. They're really, really good, especially in those situations. And I think as a staff, we'll huddle and we'll talk, we'll see what could work. But then we've got a plethora of things that we've practiced, whether it's board to court. It's usually not going in and just drawing something up randomly. We might have run it even once or twice during that week, but that little execution before helps them really execute board to court later. It might not be in our playbook, but sometimes in practice as coaches, we like to play with little sets and stuff. So like, hey, let's run this real quick. And so that's a little bit of strategy too, is we'll have in our minds, we have a whole Rolodex of plays or things that can work, and we'll sprinkle them in practice, or we'll make an adjustment to one based on how the defense is guarding. Or obviously you feed the horse. If someone's really having a successful string there, then we'll go back at them. And it's funny, the other day I was talking to an official, and there was blood on the knee, so the trainer was helping and I was over there, and my associate head coach Jason Glover had said, hey, let's run this play that we had practiced before. We hadn't run it probably in 20 games, but we ran it real quick and scored off that little kind of ATO from the injury timeout. So even those scenarios where all our heads are kind of thinking, how can we get an extra possession or an advantage there? And our kids are really good in those situations too, because we practice them. I mean, we practice into game, we practice into quarter, we practice ATO. So we are practicing those in practice again. So they're very comfortable in those situations.
So at the beginning of the year, what would a typical practice structure look like in terms of offense, defense, skill development, transition play, and then situational play?
We're really heavy on the defense in the beginning of the year. And I think, your defense, you can get going kind of quick, and our offense has caught up to that, but it's taking probably typical for your offense to take a little longer than your defense. But for us, we were really working on, I call them skinnies. A little skinny is a little piece of the whole. So just a tiny little part of kind of the overarching picture. So we did a lot of like skinnies, like a drill within the drill or whole part whole during practice. And those skinnies are really helpful. We might be doing shell, but we might not be building our help side wall as efficient as we want to. So I'll be like, let's do a 2-minute skinny. We'll have a baseline drive and the opposite come build a wall outside the paint. And we'll just do that for like a quick rapid fire rep for maybe 2 minutes, minute and a half. Then we'll go back to the shell. And it's amazing how good your shell is and your help side wall and your weak side after you've made that little tiny skinny adjustment, that focus of emphasis. And that's been a really good teaching tool that I've used in my practices.
That's great. I love that. It's kind of like you're after timeout, your little huddle, and success comes. What characteristics do you think, or what one characteristic, let's narrow it down to one, that you think all good coaches or teachers need to have?
Energy. I mean, I really do. I think if you're going to ask your team to play hard, come in with a positive attitude, have a high work ethic, you have to be the model behavior for that. And I am an energy coach. I really do. In practice, you'll come see me. I'm energy, full of energy. And then, I mean, I think today a little bit of adaptability. I've learned that in my 5 years here. We've played different styles, which is great. We've been known as a pressing team for 40 minutes, run and jump, turns, traps. Haven't done that as much this year because of kind of the personnel that I have and how we need to kind of protect them sometimes, some of those top kids, but we're still just as aggressive, in the half court or on ball screens or off the ball. And so I think adaptability too is really important for coaches, and then figure out what sticks. I think obviously coaching is teaching, right? You have to be able to resonate with these kids and then be able to take what they're learning in practice and carry it over to the game. And my terminology is pretty unique. Probably everyone that has attended one of my coaching clinics comes away with, oh, I'm going to use that term. I'm going to use that term. Sometimes just throw it against the wall and it sticks in our kids' minds. And at that point, they've learned kind of a new way of thinking about probably the same thing they've been taught since, elementary school, but somehow the terminology and how it relates to the game, we've been able to figure out a way to make that click and make that work for our team. So, I mean, one example is we have a word we use in our program. It's called Benergy, which is bench energy. And that's kind
Okay.
of taken off. I feel like I need to trademark it at this point and
Yeah.
make some t-shirts. But, for me, I don't have to, if I feel like my bench isn't engaged or they don't have good energy, I don't have to turn it over and give them a lecture about, their golf claps or how they're not into the game. I just have to turn over. I look at them and say, give me more Benergy, more Benergy, more Benergy. And they know exactly what they mean. It's like, okay, Benergy, let's go. So just stuff like that within the program that are kind of trademark staples. And that's been really good. So that was a few things. I probably did the
That's all
long
right. That's great.
version, but
That's
no, I
great.
love coaching because I do love teaching the game, and that's probably the biggest thing is how do you get through to teach them the game.
So, speaking of teaching, I'm sure you've been to a lot of high school practices and your assistants as well throughout recruiting. Is there a tip that you can give high school coaches to get the most out of their players throughout practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you develop this is at any level, right? This transcends all levels, but if you develop a good relationship with your players, you can ask more out of them if they trust you. And I think that's one of the biggest things. We've got a kid, she's a fifth year here. She's an all conference player. She graduated last year. She could have gone anywhere, to a level that she could have played about anywhere in the country. And she chose to stay here for her fifth year, and I think part of that is because the trust we've built, we've been able as a program to establish her identity within what we're doing. She feels valued. She feels like she's given some ownership. So if they're bought in with that piece of ownership and value, then I think you're going to get out a lot out of your kids, and you can push them a little bit harder. You can be demanding, as long as they know that you'll put your arm around them when practice is over and you're leaving, good days, bad days, whatever it may be. That relationship piece is really important.
Okay, I'm going to get you out of here on this. I call this the fast break portion. It's just a couple of quick questions, quick answers. We have Team A, best offensive team in the country. They're mediocre defensively. Team B shuts everyone down, can't make a shot as well as you would hope. Who would you rather coach?
I think Team B, I just there's something different about those players that are wired to play defense because it's maybe not the most popular side of the ball, but it is one that you have to have effort. You have to have that energy. You have to be able to be bought into kind of the dirty work, and you got to be gritty to be able to play good defense, and it's nonstop. So those type of players have a special place in my heart that have that type of mentality on the defensive end.
What's one thing that you're trying to get better at coaching wise?
Oh, every day. I mean, every day I want to learn and get better. But I think the best thing, you can expand your X's and O's knowledge. But I think with the changing landscape of social media and the portal and NIL, it is just figuring out how to really resonate and develop deeper relationships and have deeper conversations. And that's something that I try to deposit daily into our kids, is just making sure that they know they don't only have a coach, but a mentor and someone they can lean on, even when they walk out these college doors. So that's always been valuable to me. And, I'm on my front nine, so I am not locked into one way of doing things. I love to learn, and I love to learn from other people. So obviously expanding the basketball knowledge as well.
Okay, if I'm coming to watch Grand Canyon women's basketball game, what's one site and one restaurant that I need to see and go to in Phoenix?
Oh, so close to campus around North Central Phoenix, there's like a little there's restaurants in a row. And sometimes when I take my out of town friends, we'll do like a little restaurant crawl or hop ourselves. There's a good Mexican restaurant called Joyride Taco. So we'll start there with like chips and guac. And then you can go next door to Federal's Pizza and get a really good a really unique pizza. So that's kind of like just a variety. There's a little ice cream place next that you can stop at. So you can have yourself a little, and they're all outdoor seating and it's probably going to be 75 and sunny.
Yeah.
So you're gonna enjoy.
I'm in Toronto. I have 2 feet of snow out my window right now. It's not fun. Okay, that's fantastic. I appreciate your time. Best of luck the rest of the year. I know high school and youth coaches are going to love this interview and the insights that you shared. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. And I always want to be accessible to anyone. So my information, my email's up on the website. If anyone wants to reach out, please feel free. And good luck to everyone. Look forward to connecting.
Great. Thank you very much, Coach. We'll see
Thank
you.
you.